Happy Monday, guys. Hey, it is time to move on with this thing. Hope you guys had a great weekend, and we did. We got lots of things going on. The weather's starting to finally warm up, get into the 90s and 100s out here, which is just where I like it. Anyway, hope you guys are doing well. So, like I said on last Friday's video, if you haven't caught that yet, I really messed up on Wednesdays on that sign that I'm making, the oval sign, and we're going to move on with that today, and I'm really going to try and get it done today. If it goes long, I apologize right up front. But here's what I did. I really screwed up on this thing. But fortunately, I think I can fix it. So, babe, if you want to come down here, I'll explain what's going on. So, the more I got to looking at this groove, the more I didn't like it. I wasn't holding a good enough line. So evidently I thought I was better than I was, but it didn't work for me. But the last thing that I said on Wednesday's video, if you go back and watch it, is that what you could do is make a line inside and outside and then just treat it like an inset letter. That's what I'm going to do. And what I found is that I found this little tool. Vicky and I at Workbench Con, fortunately I'm wearing my Workbench Con shirt, we got one of these in both of our bags. And I wasn't sure how I would ever use this thing. It's made by Craig, called a multi-mark. I wasn't sure how I would use it, but man, it sure saved me on this. So let me show you how I did use it. So what I did was I wanted to get my line, or where my carving was, the furthest to the edge, to the outside edge, the closest to the outside edge actually, which I think is right around here. So I set this little mark where this little divot is right at that spot. So that's the very outside, and then I made that mark all the way around, being very careful to keep the relation of this thing. See, that's a flat on a kind of a round, but if you're really careful, and it took me probably about 15 minutes to draw these lines. So I did that for the inside, or the outside line. The inside line, I think right around this area here, or maybe over here, would be the maximum in. So I redrew that line. Actually, I reset this so that it would draw that line, and then I went all the way around, drew that line. Now, basically, I'm going to have about a 3/8 border line, if I remember right. Yeah, it's right at about 3/8 border line all the way around, and I've got a line, inside line and an outside line to stay consistent on it. But that little multi-mark tool really worked out well for this. So I've already done this end. Let me do... Actually, I think I'll just do this, a little area right here. I'm keeping the same bit in, and it's set at about 3/16. So let me turn my lights on here, and then I'll show you how I'm doing this. Need my cheaters. That's better. So that's how I'm doing it, guys. Again, in case you guys missed any prior videos, the way I'm able to keep that consistent line is I've got my hands on the router base and the actual board at the same time. So that's helping me keep my registration, or keep that steady line when I'm routing that all the way through. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to finish this up off camera to save time, and then I'll come back and then we'll get into the letters. All right, folks, so I've got that groove all done. Now, and you can see, yeah, I actually am pretty happy with it now. I think I fixed my mistake there, and actually I think it's going to look better than it would have been had it been a much narrower groove. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about is that new 60-degree bit is the one I used on here, the Amana 60-degree. And the more I use that thing, the more I really like it, better than the Whiteside 60. And one of the reasons is, if you look down in there, that's actually a flat bottom. That 60-degree bit has just a touch of a flat bottom. You really have to look.
I was just zooming in on it.
Oh. You really have to look close, but if you look down in there, you'll see it's got a flat bottom, and I didn't want to leave any texture in there, and that would have been much more difficult to do with the Whiteside 90, because that comes down to a really fine point, whereas the Amana, not 90, 60, we're talking 60 degree, the Amana 60 degree has just a tiny flat on the bottom of it. And anyway, we're going to do you're seeing this on Monday. Wednesday's video, I'm going to go into all of those brand new router bits. We talked about it again on Friday, but I'm going to go over all of those router bits head to head, why I like the Amana bits better than the Whiteside bits. Again, Whiteside's a great company, and they make great bits. We've been using them for years, and I've still got some I'll probably still use. But I really like this new 60-degree bit more than I thought I would, especially after using it on here. All right, enough about that. Let's get on to these letters. So remember, these are outset and these are inset. Now, being as this stuff is unpredictable, being as we've got, I don't know, 20 different grains. I don't know how many boards are actually here, how many pieces, but there's a bunch of them. Being as we have that many, I'm going to do the inset letters first, because I think those are more difficult than the outset letters, especially on this. Now, you guys know that my standard answer for what bit to use for inset letters, small inset letters, is a 60 degree. That's not what I'm going to use on these. I'm going to use a profile bit, because we've got some really tight spots on these lowercase letters. So I'm just going to use the profile bit on these letters. I think I'm set. Let me check and see how deep I am. I'm at almost 1/4 inch. I'm set at almost 1/4 inch. Actually, I'm going to back that off a little bit. I want to be closer to 3/16, I think, at least to start with. All right, so I'm going to set that there for right now. Put my cheaters on, and we'll get into these inset letters. Here we go. Okay. So let me go over that because I did change that depth after the router started. Let me see. That's actually about 3/16. Yeah, that's about 3/16, something like that. Now what I'm going to do, so I've got a couple different options. I can, I'm going to go ahead and finish this line up on camera, and then I'll do these, all these down here, exactly what I'm doing here. I'll do these off camera to save some time. But what I could do is I could put in my 60 and I could take that stuff out with a 60, but I don't think I will. I think I'll just go deeper. I'm going to go about 1/4 of an inch deep, maybe even a little bit deeper with a profile bit. I'll just set that thing pretty deep, and then I'll just take that stuff out with the actual profile bit, which I don't normally do, but I don't normally carve this font that small either. So I do have the router bit set at 1/4 of an inch. Let's see how that works. Here we go. Okay, so let's remember, I want to always use my stiff bristle brush and get out all of that stuff down in there. Does that give you a little bit better angle on that, babe? And there's actually some little pieces in there I want to get out. So what I'm doing, guys, is just kind of showing you on this top line exactly what I'm going to do on the bottom line as well. So get all of that loose stuff out of there. I could wait until I do the bottom line too, but I figured I'd just show it to you here. And then now what I'm going to do is I will do exactly this process down here. I like that deep cut like that. That looks cool. Do that process down here, and then I'll come back and we'll do those outset letters. All right, folks, we got all of the inset letters done. I'm liking the way they're coming out so far. So now I'm going to do the outset letters. Now on the outset letters, one thing to keep in mind when you're on a chippy board, which this is a chippy board, is you want to go counterclockwise on outset letters. And on the inset letters, I went kind of both directions depending on where I was cutting. But definitely on the inserts, like on this and this and this, you'll notice that I went counterclockwise because around this, because had I gone clockwise, it might have chipped off. Anyway, so I'm going to go counterclockwise on these outset letters. Here we go. I think you guys can get an idea what I'm doing there. I'm at, by the way, I'm at 3/16 deep. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this off at 3/16. Then I'm going to set it at 1/4 and go around everything again just to give it a little bit more buffer zone around those letters so that when I come back with my 90 degree. Anyway, all right, I'll be back and I'll have all these done and then we'll move on. Okay, got the profiling done. Now I'm going to go back with the profile bit. I got it set at 1/4 of an inch. Let's put a buffer zone around those letters. Okay. Now so now I've got my other router and I've got my 90 degree V groove bit in, and we are going to do that background. And I've got that set at right about 1/4 of an inch. All right, take care of my cords here.
Can you move this one?
Yeah, we need that light on this background.
I don't think so.
Well, let me know. If it's too dark, I'll put the light on it.
No, it won't go off.
Won't go off?
Okay, hold on. Let me get this out of the way. Oh, is it still plugged in?
Yeah, that would be why it's hard to pull.
Oh, don't be smart.
Isn't that weird how that works?
Ew.
Bless you.
Ew. I didn't come back here just for the bees beating, you know.
Really?
Nope.
Here we go.
Lift it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
There it is.
There it is. It's all carved. So we will come back and I think I'm just gonna put a a bevel on this, on the front and the back. You guys have seen me do that plenty of times. So I'm just going to use my 45-degree chamfer. Oh, by the way, I get this question a lot, especially from new people. What if you wanted that background to be flat? Then you use a spiral upcut, or that's what I would use. I like the textured background, but if you wanted a flat background, you could use a spiral upcut, and that works really good for a flat background. Anyway, all right, guys, we'll be back and we'll get this thing sprayed and sanded off. All right, guys and gals, I've got that edge on there, so I put a little bit of a chamfer on the back edge, put a chamfer on the front edge. I'm liking the way it's looking so far, but I'm doing one, before I spray it, I kind of discovered one more thing. I've got some little tiny bobbles in there that I found that I use my little micro zip, and I've got my, I'm not sure what grit this is. This is like a 50 grit or something. And because it's kind of spongy, it works really well for getting in there and just kind of, I'm matching this up to that 60-degree angle, and I'm just kind of smoothing some of that stuff out. I thought that was a tip that you guys, you know, that might help you guys if you've got some bobbles in there. So I'm just doing kind of both sides. I'm just kind of smoothing that stuff out. Gets rid of some of those little fuzzes, and also it helps kind of smooth that out and make it look a little more uniform all the way around. All right, so I'm going to finish that up, come back, and we'll spray it. So let's get this thing sprayed black. So I'm using my primer, the Rust-Oleum primer. I could use the ink just as well. It's just this one was handy, so I grabbed this one. But don't forget, guys, when you've got specially inset letters like this, because I did it with the profile bit in there, there's a lot of little tiny places in there. You've got to brush it really good with a stiff bristle brush to get all that stuff out. So I use a combination of the stiff bristle brush and my air compressor and blow it out really good. So let's get the edge first. I'm definitely not going to overspray, but I don't have to worry about this cedar as far as bleeding goes. This does not have the same issues that the pine does with bleeding, but you still don't want to overspray. All right. Just short spurts. And again, it's really deceiving if you think that you don't have coverage in there that's going to show up as black. You're probably wrong. So I turn it, now I'm going to turn it upside down, hit it real quick again. Again, very light, short spurts. Even though this stuff doesn't have a tendency to bleed, if you pour that stuff on, pour it on. If you spray it on too heavy, it will bleed on you. All right, I think that's going to work for me. So we'll let that dry. We'll come back and well, let's see, I'll turn it that way. I'll get set up, we'll let it dry, and we'll come back and sand it off. Okay guys, just I didn't say it, we just got right into the sanding, but that first sand with my skill sander was 50 grit, and then this one was 120 grit. So let's do the reveal, see what it looks like. Yeah, I kind of like that. So now, real quickly, this is something I've talked about before, but if you notice right in here, see those little fuzzies, that little stuff? So what you want to do is you want to have air blowing on that. At the same time, you take a real soft brush, it's like a shoe shine brush.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, easy for me to say. And all these little fuzzies, you want to blow on it at the same time that you're brushing with that soft brush. So there's a reason for that. The reason is that if you don't use the air, then you take a chance that some of that sawdust may come off and go down in there and scratch that black, microscopically scratch it. And I don't want to take a chance of that. I want it to stay as clear as possible. Almost out of air. Got to recharge my compressor. But that's it, guys. There it is. So we'll set up, come back, throw a finish on it, and we'll be done. Okay, folks, so normally in this situation I would be using the critter sprayer, especially since it's a beautiful day today.
We got construction going on.
Oh yeah, that's what that noise is in the background. We got our guys doing a little construction for us. Anyway, so normally I would use the critter, but here's the issue, is I'm almost out of ZAR. This is what I would definitely want to use. This is the water-based ZAR polyurethane, and this is the last of it, and I really don't want to be sucking right out of the bottom of the jar. So here's my option. I don't know how I let myself run so low on that, but I did. But then I realized I actually bought a spray can of ZAR, and I'm going to try this. Now, this is definitely exterior, it's fast drying, but here's the thing. Whereas the normal ZAR that I use is water-based, this is oil-based. It's out of a spray can, and I've tested it, and I like the way it sprays. I'm going to use it right now. I wish that stuff wasn't flying up like that. Should have taped that down. Anyway, but I'm going to give this stuff a try right here, and again, it's ZAR, so it should be really good stuff. It's oil-based, which I normally use the water-based in my critter, but I'm going to give it a try and do it for the first time and see how it works on this sign. So this is the way I normally do it. I've shook it up. It's nice and cool. I've had it in by the air conditioner. It's got a really nice fine spray, which I really like. This actually, I've never seen this kind of nozzle before. It's kind of new to me. So, a nice fine spray. I normally do the edge first. Now I'm gonna do the back. I don't know what I'm thinking. Now I want to do the back. Got a nice fan. I wonder if that's turnable. No, maybe it's not turnable. So I got to get kind of used to this pattern. This is a little bit different pattern than what I'm used to. Really kind of brings out that grain. That seems to be a little bit better for me. Sometimes you got to play with these nozzles and practice with them and see. Yeah, see, I think that's a much better pattern than what it was on the other side. So what we're going to do is
here and get it better.
Yeah. So it says this dries in 2 hours. So we'll set it up. let it dry for a couple hours. Then what I'm going to do is take some really fine sandpaper, because the first coat always causes the grain to stand up. So I'm going to let that grain stand up, dry, and then I will hit it real light with some light 220 or 400 sandpaper, and then give it another coat. Anyway, we'll come back and, so we will, I'll get a couple more coats on here, and we'll come back, and once it's all done, we'll show it exactly what it looks like. I got to lay it down flat so that plastic doesn't fly up on it. Anyway, so we'll be back in a few minutes, and this thing will be all done, and we'll wrap it up. All right, guys, we got it all done. So here is the sign. I did it a little bit different than the last scene that you saw. I actually was spraying the Czar oil-based polyurethane, and I had sprayed it on, and it looked pretty good. Then I went to spray a second coat on after a couple hours, and had a problem with the nozzle. So I'm telling you right now, I don't recommend that the spray can of the Czar oil-based polyurethane, the nozzle got clogged up, and then inadvertently it slipped out of my hand 4 or 5 times, and all of a sudden the can was destroyed.
Yeah,
I don't know how that happened. Anyway, so I can't even show you the can, because I think it's about a mile that way. I kind of chucked it. It slipped out of my hand. Anyway, so here's what I did. Being as it was oil-based, I figured, well, wait a minute. Now, if I've got the oil base on, I can't put the water base on top of the oil base. At least I won't do that. But then now I should be able to put Helmsman, because I have plenty of that. I should be able to put Helmsman on top of it. So that's what I did. I actually sprayed with my critter gun, sprayed the Helmsman on top. The Helmsman spar urethane oil-based Minwax, and then I actually, a lot of times what I do, depending on how the surface comes out, I just put my final coat on with a real fine spray of the spray can, and this is how it came out. So I'm super happy with it. So Joe, thank you so much. It is on the way to you. As you are seeing this, it's already on the way to you. I hope you like it. Thank you so much for the business and the opportunity. I hope it lasts for you for many years to come. So if you guys have questions, get back to me. Let me know. This is perfect plank, and it's cedar. Carves really, really well. Anyway, I guess that's about it, right? Am I forgetting something?
No.
Okay, so we will see you on the next video. The next video you should see should be something on the router bits. If everything goes right. So thanks, guys. I hope this was helpful, and we love you all. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.